Look at the grapefruit-sized hail that hit China earlier this week, while several states were swept by tornadoes. Meanwhile, the anomaly I told you about in the previous episode is back, and it is even stranger. Are all these events unrelated? Let's find out together. Stay until the end to see the Cave of Death and what the new robot from Boston Dynamic can do. Let's start. There will be a Miss Artificial Intelligence competition. After a trans man won Miss Netherlands last year, I told myself that there was nothing to surprise me anymore. But I was wrong. I present to you the Miss Artificial Intelligence competition, the brainchild of FanView World AI Creator Awards, and only AI-generated bots will be allowed to participate. The people behind the fake models will compete for the grand prize of $5,000 and the chance to be the world's first fake beauty queen creators. The generated beauties will be judged not only on the shapes and features of their face, but also on their body. They must be beautiful but also intelligent because they will be quizzed by the jury on some recent topics and world events. When I said jury, it will be mostly real people, but one other bot will also participate. That is Emily Pellegrini, who made headlines last year after famous footballers and billionaires wrote to her on Instagram, believing she was real. Pretty soon we won't be able to tell the real from the generated. Demonstrations in Paris against Islamophobia. A crowd of migrants from the Islamic world are on the rampage in Paris, allegedly against racism, Islamophobia, and violence against them and their children. The refugees who came to Europe are already growing in number and feel isolated, but they have no interest in integrating. Apparently, they intend to integrate Europe to them. Statistics show that precisely people who consider themselves discriminated are the most frequent perpetrators of crimes, preferring intentional assaults, theft, drugs, and weapons trafficking. At the same time, protests broke out by Muslims in Germany. Thousands of them marched in Hamburg on the last weekend of April, calling for Germany to become an Islamic country and holding up posters stating, "Caliphate is the solution." They chanted, "Allah is great," and carried paint-splattered newspapers exposing the crimes of the Islamic community in Germany. The Cave of Death. The Recreo Verde Resort in Costa Rica is surrounded by lush vegetation and healing hot springs, but it's also home to something eerie, the Cave of Death. Any living thing that enters will inevitably die. The reason is that its interior lacks oxygen. Carbon dioxide is constantly pumped inside from Earth's depths. You can see the experiment with the torch, which burns a little of the remaining oxygen and then suddenly goes out. The separation of the gas and smoke layers can then be seen very easily. It is not actually a cave in the full meaning of the word. It is more a rock niche with dimensions of 6 by 9 feet, and its creepy feature was discovered by accident during the construction of the complex. A worker stood near the entrance, and after a few minutes he felt sick. There are even experiments that prove the constant release of carbon dioxide at a rate of foot per second. Really interesting place. Artificial intelligence will become a doctor and news anchor. Google shocked the world recently when it announced that it would make an artificial intelligence with the ability to diagnose patients. It is believed that this will alleviate the stress factors that patients face during a visit to a live doctor. The Google DeepMind team is working on a bot that will take information from patients about their symptoms and explain their condition. The so-called Amy is not designed to replace doctors, but rather to act as their assistant. Artificial intelligence is entering yet another field that is generally dominated by highly skilled people. It is about television and especially news reporting. A startup company has already developed artificial newscaster that will exist only on the TV screen. The service has already been implemented in Kuwait, with tests being carried out in other countries, including Greece. Islands increase their territory. New research shows that hundreds of islands in the Pacific and Indian Oceans are expanding in territory, despite expected sea level rise due to climate change. The data is from Auckland University, and according to them, the growth is most visible in the Marshall Islands, Kiribati, and the Maldives, which as I recall should have been sinking. They have grown by up to 8% over the past 60 years. The scientists from New Zealand who discovered the phenomenon used satellite images, which indicated that the reason was the increase in sediments from the coral reefs around them, since in most cases they are atolls. However, about 10% of the observed islands did indeed decrease in size. The reason is marine erosion, with ocean waves slowly washing away parts of them. At the same time, Japan added 7,000 new islands to its territory. The reason is that the country has included in its census islands that are claimed by its neighbors. CERN will build a new collider. A massive new project is coming up, and it is expected to be many times larger than the old collider. The reason for construction is the same: to find answers to questions about the universe. Although it was the largest and most powerful particle accelerator in the world when it went into operation in 2008, with its almost 16 miles in circumference, it again proved insufficient. The future one will have 62 miles in circumference and 10 times the force to collide elementary particles. However, it will not be ready until 2050, and its price is expected to exceed $22 billion. The construction will involve digging a new tunnel under the current one, installing hardware and giant magnets that will boost particles at speeds almost as fast as light. Some people jokingly speculate that if the old one failed to open a black hole, the new one will. Boston Dynamics, new robot. If this video doesn't make you feel uncomfortable and shiver, I don't know what will. Boston Dynamic have introduced a new, frighteningly good version of their hydraulic humanoid robot, Atlas. Why the hell did you make him stand up so eerily? The company commented that they simply wanted to demonstrate his physical power of the robot. Atlas, as they call it, will include movements that are completely impossible for a human being, so it can be used to perform work that is too dangerous for people. However, its design is much more humanoid than the previous one. Like Tesla's Optimus, it has a straight back and long arms and legs, and its head can rotate in all directions and there are no visible cables. He has a round LED light on his face, and it is equipped with artificial intelligence with the possibility of training and learning. However, the purpose of the machine is mainly for industry. The new Atlas will be tested with a small group of important customers such as Hyundai, BMW, and Mercedes. Biden signed the Tik Tok ban. If the owners of Tik Tok, ByteDance, do not sell their shares in the social network to an American company by January 19, 2025, TikTok will be banned in the United States. That became a fact after President Joe Biden signed the bill, which was pre-approved by the Senate and Congress. However, everything happened super fast and kind of quietly, since the bill was part of other important decisions, such as the aid to Ukraine. If you follow our channel, you surely knew this moment was coming, but somehow we kept hoping it would slip away. The president has the power to extend that deadline by 90 days, but only if it is determined that the company that TikTok has made some progress on the sale. ByteDance, however, they have no intention of selling and threaten to sue. They believe that the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which guarantees freedom of speech, is on their side, and that the law mandates censorship. There are 170 million TikTok users in the U.S., many of whom own small businesses that they run through the platform. Europe is not affected at the moment, but it is not known. A volcano spews gold. Scientists have discovered a volcano in Antarctica that spews gold valued at $6,000 every day. The southernmost active volcano on the planet, Erebus, has attracted the world's attention. But before you pack your luggage for a trip to the frozen continent, you should know that there is simply no way to collect gold particles that easily. The precious metal is in the form of crystals and is found in the gases that the volcano spews. The gold dust is spread over a radius of 1,000 kilometers and cannot realistically be extracted easily. Calculations show that Erebus erupts 80 grams of gold every day, which at current prices equals about $6,000 to $7,000. The reason for the golden dust is the thinness of the Earth's crust on which Erebus is located, and this allows gold-rich molten rocks to rise to the surface. A wave of large-scale storms in the US and China. Dozens of tornadoes raged across the US in the last days of April. In just one day during the week, they were 88, and over the weekend they were 90. Spring is normally tornado season in the US, but it's only typical of the Midwest and Texas. This time, however, they affected a much larger area and reached as far as the northern parts of Nebraska and Iowa. The reason for this is believed to be the weakening of El Niño, which is about to die down in the next 4 years. In Oklahoma, the disaster was severe, as a massive tornado ripped through a populated area and caused billions in damage. On the other side of the world, however, things were even scarier. Grapefruit-sized hailstones fall in Guangdong, China. Check out the footage from this roof. Can you believe the size of those ice balls? Cars, crops, and entire buildings were destroyed by the high winds and unprecedented hail. It looks a bit like the beginning of the movie The Day After Tomorrow to me. In one part of China, a huge piece of protection against hail failed, and this was the result. The South Atlantic anomaly is back. Remember the South Atlantic anomaly I told you about in the previous episode of the news? Well, it is back, and this time it's even stranger. I will quickly remind you that in the middle of April last month, a dark purple spot appeared on a satellite for weather monitoring, and it was moving from Antarctica to Africa. Then, all of a sudden, it simply disappeared and it was announced as a glitch on the site. But still, large-scale storms hit South Africa. The site justified itself with an error in the algorithm, but a week ago, the situation repeated itself. A strange spot showing low temperatures and extreme wave conditions has reappeared. Is it another glitch or some new phenomenon that we don't know anything about? The anomaly itself this time seemed to swirl around a small island. Some comments on the internet have suggested that there is something on this particular island that is causing the anomaly. Last time it was just a huge blob that disappeared, but this time it's completely different in shape and scale. Going to the map with ships, we can see that in this period, there is none there. Another oddity is that the anomaly appeared right around the time of the large-scale storms in the US and China. Two similar anomalies within a month and large-scale storms across the globe. A lot of coincidences, don't you think so? How are washed potatoes made? We end today's news with a funny video that shows how in Europe regular potatoes become more expensive. We can see a group of people from the gypsy community washing them in a river. Seriously, guys? As we can see, many people are involved in the process, and there are even children. I thought some hygienic equipment is normally used, but the river is fine too. If you enjoyed this video, you will like this one here. Don't forget to subscribe for more interesting content.